All right, Eugene, first of all, I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to listen to what everyone else is about to hear. I personally think that it's great, but what possessed you to share this?
Possessed? Jesus. No, it's good. No, it's good. What possessed me? The idea that I had many conversations this year where people kept asking me, how in the world are you still friends or have relationships with people that endorse ideologies that you do not agree with? Because as you know, this has not been an easy year. So I actually sat down this year while in quarantine and wrote out some ideas that I want to cover with 2020, and actually accidentally wrote this piece that answered the question that I've been skirting around all year.
That's awesome. Do you think that you learned new things about your friends who maybe fell on either side of that line? Tolerant, intolerant?
That's actually a really good question. I learned that humans are going to be humans, and you have to let humans be complex. I am a person, I love black and white. I love when things have certain boundaries, and I know where everything fits, and there's a box for everyone. And when it comes to humans, when it comes to people, we are complex, we are all over the place. And where I wanted to push people away because of those boundaries I had in my mind, true friends taught me that you cannot do that, and you should not do that. And love through all the differences.
Well, I personally just want to say thank you for being vulnerable and honest and for sharing what you have learned from this season. And I hope that all of your listeners take away something from it and can apply it to their lives. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it. I listened to it twice. You enjoyed it.
That is awesome. You listened twice.
I did.
This year has been insane. As a matter of fact, I am recording this from the comfort of my home due to me having to self-quarantine. Someone close to me tested positive for COVID, so I thought I would be responsible and stay my butt inside. And while sitting here, I have been reflecting on the events that have transpired this year. Listen, we've had massive ordeals taking place, such as COVID-19 with over 300,000 deaths in the US alone, the continuing fight against racial injustice, a global recession, the lockdowns, all things politics, all things religion and politics, the West Coast fires, the deaths of Kobe Bryant, Chadwick Boseman, RBG, John Lewis, Elijah Cummings, Reverend C.T. Vivian, and the list goes on. This has been a year. But I'll be completely honest with you. As I sit with my thoughts in my apartment, because once again, I am having to quarantine, I am pretty dang optimistic. And I dare to take this disposition because I'm a lover of history, and what I see on repeat throughout the ages is how humans faced arduous challenges and surmounted them time and time again. Now, let me be very clear. What I am going to share is not in any way meant to undermine the atrocities people have had to and are continuing to overcome. I'm admitting upfront that I'm approaching this recording humbly from my limited perspective as I try to peer out from more of a macro vantage point. I'm always trying to see how we are connected through time and history in search of extrapolating lessons or principles that will serve the present and give hope to the future. And for me, this goal is often accomplished by sitting alone and contemplating our shared history. Sometimes I will go back to the beginning of mankind with our ancestors in Africa. Now, whether they were in East Africa or South Africa, I will let anthropologists figure that out. But I just love to sit in astonishment at how far we have progressed. History is full of stories heralding our collective resilience. I know one of my favorite spaces in time to ponder over is the beginning of the 20th century. Do you guys understand how much people had to face? Like, it was ridiculous. Check it. Let's say you were born in the year 1900. If you were born in the year 1900, by the time you turned 14, World War I would be beginning, promulgated as the war to end all wars. By the age of 16, the Russian Revolution would be underway, and the polio epidemic would be breaking out here in the States. By the age of 18, with World War I coming to an end, the Spanish flu would be ravaging the globe, claiming the lives of 600,000 Americans alone. By the age of 22, fascism would be on the rise with Mussolini in Italy. By the age of 29, the Great Depression would hit. 33, Hitler would be in power in Germany, and by the age of 39, the Second World War would be beginning. That means that at the age of 41, you would have heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor. By the age of 45, World War II would have come to an end, only to have the Cold War begin when you were 47. Now, this is something that you most likely wouldn't have lived to see the end of due to the fact that it lasted for 45 years. Throughout your 50s and your 60s, you would have witnessed the following. The cultural movement of the 1950s and 60s, the Red Scare of the 1950s, where there was mass hysteria of the perceived threat posed by the communists in the U.S. during the Cold War. Brown versus Board of Education, 1954, which overturned the separate but equal ruling put in place by Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896. The Civil Rights Movement, which included the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The assassinations of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., JFK, RFK, and others. Two more global influenza pandemics, one in 1957 and the other in 1968. The sexual revolution, the Mexican-American civil rights movement with Cesar Chavez, the gay liberation movement following the Stonewall riots that took place in the summer of 1969, the exact summer that man lands on the moon. And the list continues. Now, this is if you live to be 70. If you lived to the life expectancy of the day, which was 46 for men and 48 for women, you would have lived through 2 world wars, an epidemic, a pandemic, the Great Depression, and God have mercy on your soul if you looked like me, because on top of all of that, you had to bear the weight of Jim Crow and segregation, where every day you would be reminded through word and or deed that you were worthy enough to boost and benefit the economy, defend and fight for America, but denied the minimum respect given for merely being born human, because that would be an honor withheld from us by the ruling caste system of the day. And yet, here I am in 2020 doing this spiel. I'm a firm believer that the human species is an impressive creation. I stated earlier that time and time again, humans faced arduous challenges and have surmounted them one by one, but I left out an important part, a very important part. What I should have said is that time and time again, humans have faced arduous challenges and together surmounted them one by one. None of the great feats of history were done void of humans rallying together, whether fighting against the wild to survive, fighting against ideals that oppress, or us making it through the crazy times of 2020 or the 20th century that I just listed. These victories are won by the many and not just a single individual. It's oneness. It's agreement, the collective, a tribe, a people, community, a nation. Now, let's be honest. This year came with some haymakers that tested bonds that we thought were strong enough to survive anything. It's like, bruh just came through swinging, and I was not ready. But that's okay, because like I stated before, I'm a lover of history. I knew after the initial onslaught of events beginning at the top of the year that no matter what, just like those that have gone before me, I had my friends and my family. I had my tribe, I had my people, I had my community. And then almost overnight, things changed. People changed. People that I loved changed, or should I say, they revealed themselves for who they truly were. And to be fair, for others, this year they found out who I truly was, I guess, because to them, I was the one that changed. But yo, there were some all-out brawls that took place this year, and it wasn't just left versus right. Oh, no. That's way too simplistic. You have family members coming for one another like they were strangers, friends dragging each other, religious communities against their own, #more. And one thing was abundantly clear. No one was exempt from choosing a side. No. Not this year. We made sure that even if you tried to inoculate yourself from conversations, you could not. Because in 2020, silence enables. And if you didn't speak fast enough this year, we told you exactly where you belong. We were all like the little sorting hat from Harry Potter, calling out the houses that individuals belong to. Except it was less like, Hufflepuff. It was more so like, racist, or baby killer, murderer. We put everybody in a category. Everybody was labeled something this year. And I'll be honest, I'll take full credit. Even I personally hopped into the ring this year for a little bit and threw my own punches. It came about because people would post and then I would post. They would say something, then I would say something. They would stand up for what was right to them, then I would stand up for what was right to me. And the conversations that I had to endure this year, oh my God, the conversations. Police brutality, Black Lives Matter, the existence of racism in the US, wearing masks or not, you're a sheep if you do and a sheep if you don't, Trump being God's president or not, which political party fought for the true essence of America's soul, global warming, what Jesus has to say about all this, leaving the church or changing churches due to political stances, and the list goes on. It was like it wouldn't stop. Besides the fact that being angry is quite exhausting, it hit me this year. This idea struck me this year. I actually wasn't expecting to learn this lesson. That's how it usually works in life. It was the idea that there is always another me on the other side of an argument or belief. Think about that statement. Let it sink in. There is always another you on the other side of an argument or belief, just as knowledgeable, ignorant, passionate, apathetic as you. I remember scrolling through some comments on social media one day and I saw threads inundated with people calling out other people's foolish beliefs, some in the most garish way. And what stuck out to me as I kept scrolling was the following. Number one, everybody had a video, article, or person to back their point or points. Number two, everybody was impelled to take a stand for what they concluded as right. Number three, everybody, and I mean everybody, was speaking the truth. Not a fact, no, the truth. This thing could not be questioned. Number four, for all the religious people I saw posting and arguing, everybody was taking a stand for their deity and felt fully empowered by said deity to spread that deity stance on all discussed topics. I can't tell you how many times Jesus apparently kept sending out different messages. For a second there, I thought I belonged to a polytheistic faith, the Jesus of conservatives, the Jesus of liberals, the Jesus of independents, the Jesus of I'm above all of this. It just kept happening. People kept saying different things that he supposedly said. And you know what it did? It led many to question where they belonged. Where did they belong? I was watching The View the other day, and during an interview with Joe Scarborough, which I don't think I ever say his name right, I'm sorry, but he's the co-host of Morning Joe, he began to talk about how he could not go back to the Republican Party, a party he has belonged to forever. He said this because of what he had witnessed over the past 4 years. For him, this was not the Republican Party that he once supported and loved. And I remember hearing him say that, and I physically sat up on my couch and just leaned in. And it wasn't because of his statement. It was because of the question I knew was coming from one of the hosts. And then it happened. The question shot out. Then where do you go, Joe? And he said, I don't know. I don't know where I belong. I can't tell you how many conversations I have had with friends and loved ones where at some point a version of I don't know where I belong was said this year. Sometimes it was fueled with heightened emotions because they were pissed. And then sometimes it was whispered through a deep sigh. I'll let you guys in on a secret. I tried to break off some friendships this year. I mean, I literally had talks where I sincerely was trying to friend break up. I mean, I think I had tried the, oh no, it's me, not you. This will benefit you. We should not be friends. Like, my Lord, there should have been an audience. Somebody should give me a standing ovation. But I did this because they were proclaiming messages or promoting messengers that I vehemently opposed intellectually, ethically, morally, scripturally. And I was going to follow the lead of what I had seen and just let them go. Plus, I was a little tired from defending some of my relationships anyway by that point, and I think I just wanted some rest. I remember having a conversation with a buddy of mine where I gladly announced, I have an African-American female conservative that is one of my mentors and she loves me. At which he promptly responded with an elevated tone, Gene, the fact that you just said she is a conservative means she doesn't love you. Emphatic was his tone. Absolute was his judgment. And I just sat there, at a loss for words. But if I could go back, you know what I would say? I would say, really? You're telling me that the woman that has patiently mentored me for the last 5 years doesn't love me? Are you telling me that the woman that has invested time, money, energy, and praise for me all the time doesn't love me? The same woman that I have seen go to bat for me over and over, the same woman that has been a challenging safe space, the same woman that has wept tears for my life and my future, the same woman that puts everything she has in being the best mother, wife, leader, and ultimately lover of Jesus, who gets up in the wee hours of the morning to pray and then work for her family and us. This woman doesn't love me because she is a conservative? Is this where we are? Is this what we have become? Have we wiped our memory to make more room for hate and intolerance with the goal of only drawing near to those that are mirror images of ourselves? Is this where we are? Sure, she and I have gotten into some knockout dragouts, but her love for me has never been a question, and there's no need to start now. But I didn't say that. And maybe I didn't say that because in that moment, maybe, I too was thinking, I don't know where I belong. And apparently, I have to choose a side and choose it quickly. One day this year, I was being driven home by one of those friends that I thought it'd be best to try and just end the friendship. And I started my speech out with, "Hey, buddy." I don't know why that's the tone that I choose to use when I'm trying to do some kind of separation from someone, like, "Hey, buddy." But I did. Started out with my, "Hey, buddy, maybe it's best that we go our separate ways. It's not you, it's me." And I will never forget him driving down the road. He became teary-eyed. He was steering the vehicle with his left hand, and he took his right hand and placed it on my left shoulder. And as he was driving, he would switch his eyes back and forth between looking at the road and looking at me, and he just kept saying, "I'm not going anywhere. Look at me. I'm not going anywhere. You are my brother. So no, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm going to love you no matter what. I know we are different, but I love you, Eugene." On another occasion, I had a friend of mine that is white, an open Trump supporter, and has one of the thickest Southern drawls you may ever hear. Now listen, it is one thing to be a Trump supporter, but to be white and have a Southern drawl at the same time, Lord Jesus, it's almost expecting for such a person to wake up whistling Dixie, for crying out loud. But nevertheless, he's one of my close friends. And though we are close, our bond was among the relationships that got tested. And there was a moment this year where I decided I was going to reach out to him because I was not appreciating the fact that he had not posted or said anything about police brutality and what had transpired. Never mind the fact that he was working his butt off, working on his freaking new home he was blessed to buy with his pregnant wife, whom I love and adore. Forget the fact that he was thinking about how he was about to become a first-time father. Never mind the fact that he was being responsible for the betterment of his family and, leading a new church plant. Forget all that. I wanted a post. I wanted a post and I wanted it now, damn it. So I hit him up, shared my thoughts. He heard me out. He was gracious like he always is. And we talked, and he didn't try to use any of the things I knew he was dealing with to explain to me how busy he had been. He even apologized if I was offended by his inaction. And I, as any humble servant of the Lord, accepted his apology because I'm such a great friend. Some months went by and I received a message from him. And I remember looking at the length of the voice memo and thinking, this is rather lengthy, buddy. Again, there goes that buddy. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Just, pray for me. So I pressed play, and for the next few minutes, my friend, through that Southern drawl, informed me that our conversation meant a lot to him. That he had been reading books to educate himself on race-related topics. He was learning more, and he wanted to do his part to help bring about solutions. Guys, I forgot all about the conversation, but my friend didn't. A friend, according to some, I shouldn't even be friends with. I have a plethora of stories that I could share, but I'm going to put a pause on that for now to say, don't let the craziness of these times make you forget the people who have shown you that they love you. If they can make room for your perspective, maybe, just maybe, you can make room for theirs. While thinking over some things that I wanted to say as part of this, I guess it's like a little speech, I kept being reminded of ancient Greece. Literally, I couldn't shake some facts about ancient Greece that were just floating around my mind. And specifically, I was taken back to 479 BC. Now, I know I sound like a nerd, but that is okay. I will own being a nerd. In August of 479 BC, the Greeks were about to battle Persia, and Persia was the superpower of the day that stretched over 1 million square miles of the ancient world. And the Greeks that rallied together were bitter rivals. Some historians even say they were the exact opposites. You had the Spartans, which were all about military on one hand, and then you had the Athenians that were all about education and being intellectuals on the other. But they laid down their differences in order to defend their land. Now, they were outnumbered 3-1, with Persia having 100,000 soldiers from all over the empire. And then they were exhausted due to keeping the Persians at bay for about a week, and they were exposed geographically. But the Greeks had something going for them. They had new weapons made of iron, a newly strong metal discovered on the island of Cyprus, something Sparta had rich mines of, and they had a new tactic that they were going to use in a last-ditch effort, the phalanx. And if you don't know, the phalanx was a human tank. It required soldiers to work closely together, both to protect each other and give that unified, tightly packed force enough power to push forward. By blocking those shields together and then separating to drive the spear into your enemy, you could take one more step and you could start to dominate the battlefield by working together as a coordinated team. It is this tactic that helps bring about victory for the Greeks. And if you've seen 300, you've seen this demonstrated. Side note, random. If the Greeks would have lost that war, we would not have known of an idea that was invented and only practiced in Athens, a little thing called democracy. But these rivals, which is what I really want to focus on, these rivals, these two city-states with different ideologies that couldn't seem to understand one another, had to come together to defeat something greater, laying differences aside in order to come together to trample over a common threat. I don't know about you, but this division in our nation is a threat. This division in the church, it's a threat. And it is only getting worse, it seems. I started this off with telling you that as I look over the landscape of 2020, I am pretty dang optimistic, and I meant it. And I am optimistic because I truly believe that more and more people will continue to rally together for the betterment of the whole and not just certain segments of the population. I'm also optimistic because I know that hard and dark times like what we are currently living in produces a special breed of leaders. Go back and think about the major events I listed from earlier. Leaders will come to mind. Nancy Cohen wrote a piece for the Harvard Business Review this past April about leadership. It was titled, "Real Leaders Are Forged in Crisis." These real leaders, according to writer David Foster Wallace, are people that help us overcome the limitations of our own individual laziness and selfishness and weakness and fear and get us to do better, harder things than we can get ourselves to do on our own. Mr. Wallace has studied courageous crisis leaders for 2 decades, and through this work, he states real leaders are not born. The ability to help with others, to triumph over adversity, is not written into their genetic code. They are instead made. They are forged in crisis. Let me tell you, I am so excited to read about the leaders 2020 has forged. I want to wrap this address up. Address! That's the word I was looking for this whole time. I want to wrap this address up with 2 calls to action, 2 small requests. Number 1, I want you to really ask yourself, are there people that you need to reach out to that either you walked away from them, they walked away from you, or you guys just let the relationship fizzle out because of what has taken place this year? I'm not saying for you to actually reach out to them. I am just asking you to ask yourself if so. Maybe it's not time to reach out. Maybe it is. I don't know, and I will not presume to know so. This is me just asking for you to remember some people that you once held dear. Life is short, so be very clear about your decisions. Number 2, I want you to ask yourself, am I one of those leaders that is meant to be a bridge when it seems as if choosing a trench is the way to go? Am I one of those leaders that has been forged this year to be the difference I've been saying that we need? Again, I'm just asking you to ask yourself, hey, I get it. Being a bridge sucks at times. It ain't easy out here, but we are in desperate need. This is what I know for sure, and I'm going to get the heck up off this microphone because this is borderline an altar call. What I know for sure is that our collective bright future is not ahead of us. It's not coming over the horizon. It is in us. Like an oak tree trapped within an acorn, our futures are within us. And if we truly want to see healing, understanding, proper communication, etc., if we want to see that take place in this country, it will take, once again, people rallying together to make that happen. And I believe that this is possible. Thank you guys so much for listening. Love ya. I'm out.
Hey guys, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I really do appreciate it. And I hope that you were encouraged. And if so, please think about reposting it or sending it to a loved one. Believe me, there's more content to come. I'll see you guys later. Thank you.